shower, run down there, and get on stage about 8:30 and knock it out, and 10:30 somewhere at a craps table.
I'm lucky I don't gamble. I don't do it.
You never got into sports?
Nope. I mean, I used to bet on fights. Back in the early days of the UFC, I used to bet on fights, and one day they made it illegal, but I already stopped doing it because I was like, this is probably not a good thing for me to be betting on things I'm commentating on because I can't affect the outcome.
Right.
But
sometimes it's still quite close.
I also sometimes know some shit. This has been a bunch of times. So one of my business partners, I would tell him what to bet on, and we were at like 84% at one time. It was crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
For like 6 or 7 fights in a row, 6 or 7 fight cards in a row, we were at about 84%. Because every now and then they would have these guys that were coming in from Japan or from Russia. And the odds makers didn't know who these guys were, and I was like, "Oh Jesus Christ!" Bet the house. Yeah,
you already.
I knew those
studying
guys.
them for
years. So I knew everything about these guys. I'm like, Jesus Christ, bet the fucking house.
Layup.
Yeah, there was a few. Like when Anderson Silva came into the UFC, I was like, bet the house on the Brazilian. Whatever you got, I go throw it all at this guy. You can't fucking lose. Because when he came into the UFC, he was like in his prime. And I got to see him evolve in Japan and then later on in England. And so when he came in the UFC, I think he was a favorite over this guy, Chris Lieben, who's a really tough guy. But I'm like, whatever the odds are, fucking throw it all at that guy.
I bet y'all. Were you betting with him too at that time?
No, I wasn't betting. I'd already stopped. Yeah. It was like, I could get in trouble.
Don't get any trouble now either. Don't lose the gig.
Well, now the UFC made a law, and it was real recent, like 2 years ago. Up until like 2 years ago, all staff, anyone could bet. Now no one can bet.
Really?
Yeah, because there was a scandal. One of the trainers apparently was involved, allegedly was involved, knew about an injury, and then it turned out there's probably some other bets that are a little shady that perhaps allegedly people were involved with. So they're like, okay, we got to put a stop.
Whole life, no sports betting. Through college, through college, I'd walk in and my buddies back then, they'd spliced 8 TVs together, and they got all their notes, and I'm like, dude, no wonder you got all D's, and you're about to get shipped out of college. But I survived all that, and me and a buddy, we started picking 2 games a week, and we would load up, and this was like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. So I would load up like $20,000 a game. Ooh. But I was strict, and I had my deal, and it just we like bet. I mean, just take Alabama in the points in the first half. You do that most of the year. I mean, it was 80%. So we did well, and then my buddy moved away from me, and we quit talking about it. And I went rogue for like 2 years. I was betting like Utah State at the West Coast game, midnight, just throwing bets in. And I was like, man, I'm out. So I stopped. But
did you see Uncut